Hi, this is Erin Hobson with Red Hook Guitar. Last lesson I showed you how to figure out all of the notes across the fretboard. Now we're going to take that knowledge a step further and we're going to talk about something called intervals. Intervals are defined as the distance between notes. Each distance is measured by a definition. We give that a definition and we give it a unique sound. Intervals are the basic building blocks and the foundation of everything that you play in music. You play intervals all the time when you play chords, when you play scales. We're just going to learn how to define them, and also later on we're going to learn how to apply them to actual music. So this is kind of a heady lesson. There's a lot of information I'm about to give you. I don't expect anybody to memorize it immediately or to have it make sense immediately. Most of my students, they sort of understand it, but it takes them a long time to actually, before it's really ingrained in their brain. So I'm going to do my best to explain this as easily as possible, but know that this is just a general overview, and it's probably not going to make entire sense until later. I'm going to use F as my starting point. Everything I'm going to play is in relation to F as the root note. So if I start on F and I go, the shortest distance I can go is 1/2 step or 1 fret. So that note is F sharp or G flat, we learned yesterday. So here's F sharp, G flat. That distance is defined as a minor second. It's also the theme song to Jaws, just so you have a sound to relate it to. And when we talk about minor intervals, we're talking about a decrease or a flat. So remember, the lowercase b is the flat sign. So I'm going to call this interval G flat, not F sharp, because it is a minor interval. Okay, so that's the first one. Second interval, I'm going a whole step or 2 frets. That is F to G. That is known as a major second. Okay, so minor second has a very dark, sad sound. Major second has a happier, more neutral sound. If I go 1 more fret from there, I have this note G sharp or A flat. That is known as a minor third. So a minor interval, we're going to call it A flat. We're not going to call it G sharp because it's a minor interval. So if you've ever learned the minor pentatonic scale, you know that that is the first interval in the minor pentatonic scale. Hence why it's called the minor pentatonic scale and not the major pentatonic scale. So if I go 1 more fret from there, from F to A, I have a major third. So you hear major third if you've ever played a major blues, if you've ever played the major scale, if you've ever played a major chord, you've played a major third. Okay? If you've ever been in chorus and you had that exercise that went 1, 3, 5, 3, 1. 1 is the root, 3 is the major third, 5th we're going to get to in a second, and back to the major third and to the root again. Alright, so the next note from there is A sharp or B flat. But I'm not going to go all the way up here to the 6th fret. I'm going to play it down here on the 1st fret because I want to keep it all in one position. So from F to A sharp, B flat is a 4th. We're going to call it B flat. So F to B flat is a 4th. Here comes the bride. So there's a sound you can relate it to. It's also important to note that your guitar is tuned in 4ths. E to A is a 4th, A to D is a 4th, D to G is a 4th. But then when you get to these 2 strings, G to B, that's a major third, right? Because if you go G to B, that distance is 2 whole steps. So that's a major third. And then B to E is a 4th again. So later when we get into things like blues and the 1-4-5 chord progression, things that you've probably heard about but never really understood what it meant, on the guitar, like if I start here on this G, my 4th is just the string below it. If I'm on C and I want to go a 4th, my F, my 4th, is just below it. If I'm here and I go a string below, so 4ths are kind of easy to find on the guitar for that reason. So I'm going to go F to B now. That interval, you can hear it. It's very dark. It was banned from the church. It has a lot of names. Its nickname is the Devil's Interval because it was known to conjure evil spirits. So you have to use this one cautiously and sparingly. So F to B. So we're going to call this a tritone. But I told you here, this B flat is a fourth. So I'm going to teach you some new terms. Augment. So when you augment something, you make it larger. Augmented. That's a term in music. What it means is, if I'm going to make an augmented fourth, I've taken my fourth and I've made it larger by 1 fret. Diminish. When you diminish something, you make it smaller. So if I'm on my fifth, which is going to be our next interval we learn, and I flat it, or I make it lower by 1 fret, I'm diminishing my fifth. So that can seem complicated. That one interval has a lot of names. You can call it a tritone. If you've augmented it, it's an augmented fourth. If you've diminished it, it's a diminished fifth, depending on what direction you're going to and from, right? So if you've heard the song Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath, right? That's the interval we're talking about, the tritone. So now you have a sound to relate it to. The next interval is a fifth. So you notice here I'm playing a power chord, right? Root and fifth, sometimes octave, but for my beginners I just do root and fifth for the power chord because it's a lot easier. If you see F5, B flat 5, C5, G5, it's usually an indication to play a power chord. So power chords are root and fifth. So after my fifth, if I augment my fifth, if I make it larger by 1 fret, I have F to C sharp, that's an augmented fifth. A lot of times in chords you'll see C sharp 5. That means you're going to sharp the 5 of that chord, but we're going to get into chord theory later. I know that's probably not making a whole lot of sense right now. And also it's indicated by a plus sign. If you ever see C plus, that means C augmented. You're going to augment the fifth. You're going to make it larger by 1/2 step. But that will be in a chord theory lesson later. F to D now is a major sixth. So when you play a shuffle in the blues, see how I'm playing just a power chord, root and fifth, and then if I add that major sixth, you get that shuffle sound. Okay. Also, NBC, the NBC theme is root, major sixth to fourth. So these all have sounds. If I go F to E flat, that's a minor seventh. If I go F to E, that's a major seventh. If I go F to F, that's an octave. So now you have all 12 of them, and I know it's probably like a big fuzzy, there's a big fuzziness in your brain, and your brain is probably going like this and spinning around in circles, because that's a lot of information. I'm going to write it in the description to sort of help you memorize it. Ways to practice it for now, just start on F and just say the intervals as you play them. Minor second, major second, minor third, major third, fourth, tritone, fifth, augmented fifth or minor sixth, major sixth, minor seven, major seven, octave. So you can do that for now. Something that I used to do that I'm sure not many people would do, but I'm kind of a music nerd. When I was in high school in study hall, I just used to write them all out. So I gave you the 12 tones of music. So if you started on A, right, you could write them out. What would my minor second be? It would be A to B flat. What would my major second be? It would be A to B. What would my minor third be? It would be A to C. What would my major third be? It would be A to C sharp. Fourth, A to D. My tritone, A to E flat or D sharp. Fifth, A to E. Augmented fifth, E sharp or F. Major sixth. And you write them all out from A. Then you write them all out from A sharp and B flat. You write them all out from B. You write them all out from C. You know, when I was in college, that's what the workbooks would do. You would just go through, you'd learn these intervals, and then they would give you little tests and exercises to write them all out. And again, you can use a cheat sheet for that. You can use the printout of the guitar fretboard to help you visualize that. But really, it's one of those things where over time, it's just going to kind of seep into your brain, and it's going to become like second nature. And it's going to come from learning chord formulas, learning scale formulas, and writing out chords and writing out scales and applying this theory. Because, you know, if you just learn knowledge but you never use it, it's useless knowledge. But if you learn this knowledge and you build upon it and you start using it, which I'm going to show you how to do in later videos. I'm going to do a whole series on chords, chord formulas, differences between major chords, minor chords, augmented chords, diminished chords. Then I'm going to go through chord inversions all the way up to seventh chords, starting with triads, going up to seventh chords. It's going to be a whole series of videos I'm going to be putting out. But know that this is, I'm just trying to do this step by step, and not all of it may seem like a big picture right now. You just have like a small piece of a bigger picture, a small little puzzle piece of a bigger puzzle. And we're just putting the pieces together. So don't be discouraged if it seems like a lot of information or it's overwhelming, because it will make more sense later, I promise. Okay, thanks.